Hello, my name is Scott Hamilton, and my speech today will be about 4 myths that are commonly told and retold in the general public nowadays. You see, the media likes to bring up certain gun myths, and I'm here to disprove them with some simple facts to inform you. The first myth is we are safe in gun-free zones, and nothing could be further from the truth. Gun-free zones only do one thing: promote more violence. Have you ever heard of a place called Sandy Hook, Connecticut? How about Fort Bragg down in Texas? Or the Colorado movie theater, or Columbine? The one thing that these places have in common is they're all gun-free zones. Areas that where we, as American citizens, are not allowed to carry guns. Something that is our Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms. You see, even our forefathers knew that to be totally free, we had to be able to protect ourselves. With just one exception, every public mass shooting in the USA since 1950 has taken place where citizens are banned from carrying guns. Despite strict regulations, Europe has had 3 of the 6 worst school shootings. And that is a piece of information that I retrieved from usatoday.com. You see, what gun-free zones really do is tell the criminals where they can meet the least resistance. My next myth is the NRA is a bunch of gun-toting advocates who freely go around firing off their shotguns or their handguns or their semi-automatic weapons. They're free to do what they want. Well, that sadly is not true. And this is something that I learned from a class that I took previously here at Grantham University. The NRA was actually founded after the Civil War to improve marksmanship, to promote gun education, gun safety, and how to keep your guns clean and functional. You see, during the Civil War, some of the marksmanship was down to its lowest levels because people frankly didn't know how to shoot a gun. So we had 2 generals, General William Church and General George Wingate, founded the National Rifle Association in 1871. Their primary goal of the association was to promote and encourage shooting on a scientific basis, according to the magazine's editorial branch. And that information was easily retrieved from NRA.gov. Okay? Early years of the NRA, they went around, especially on the East Coast after the Civil War, and they promoted rifle shooting contests. They weren't advocating gun use and gun violence. They were merely trying to educate people how to use guns and how to use them safely. Myth number 3, homicides are at an all-time high. Now this is something that probably is a little bit believable, and the only reason why it's really believable is because the mass media out there only reports on the larger incidences and the bad things that happen in society. You know, the old term is if it bleeds, it leads. That's the way they do their reporting. They won't report about the Boy Scouts who help women across the streets. They won't report on planes that land. But anything that's sensational and causes death, that's what they want to put to headline all their stories. Okay? Simply put, violent crimes are down every year since 1993. Just to give you a small example, violent crimes are down from their highest levels in 1993. There was 747.1 per 100,000 residents. That number is down to 386.9 per 100,000 residents. And murders in 1993 were 24,526 per 100,000 residents in 1993. Now they're down to 14,827 per 100,000 residents. And when you look at this chart that I easily obtained on FBI.gov, you can steadily see that the number comes down year by year by year. Sometimes it goes up by just a few percentage points, but the majority of the time, all crime across the board is slowly on the way down, especially gun homicides. Okay? And finally, the 4th myth, states with high gun ownership have high murder rates. Now you can see where that would be plausible, because obviously if you have a lot of guns around, you would think there'd be a lot of gun crime. But again, something that's totally false and totally far from the truth. Okay? To prove that, I went to a website called AmericanGunFacts.com. And I found this story. The abundance of gun crimes does not mean crimes are committed. In fact, the opposite is true. In Kennesaw, Georgia, in 1982, they passed a law requiring head of households to possess a firearm inside the home. Now that seems a little bit radical, that seems a little bit over the top and out of control, but bear with me because it does make sense. After that law was passed, the residential burglary rate subsequently dropped 89% in Kennesaw, Georgia, compared to just 10.4% across the entire state of Georgia. Moreover, today's statistics, household crime rate in Kennesaw, Georgia is down 85% compared to the national average and the state average in Georgia. And that just tells you everything you need to know right there. Criminals know there's a gun in that home, so I better not try to do anything stupid at that house. Which goes back to my first point about gun-free zones being unsafe for all. So in conclusion, it's always best to research information on your own and try to find out the facts for yourself. Sometimes you'll find the facts that will support your story. Sometimes you'll find the facts that will go against your story. But the point is you have to seek out the facts and not the myth. Regardless if you stand on a particular topic, you may be even surprised at what you learn. And you know, with good old-fashioned research, you can find out the truth. You just have to be willing to accept the truth that some myths are just that. They're myths. And they need to be proven wrong. Thank you.